The quiet hum of the school's morning chatter filled the air, and as he entered the main hallway, dozens of eyes, curious, intrigued, sympathetic, turned toward him. The corridors smelled like lemon polish and the faint bitterness of teenage stress. Junha wheeled slowly into his new classroom, his hands trembling slightly against the cold metal. The noise died instantly, dozens of heads swiveling toward him, curiosity crackling like static. "This is Joon-ha. He's joining us today," the teacher announced with a polite, professional smile, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. Joon-ha kept his eyes low. He hated this, the stares, the whispers. His fingers tightened slightly against the wheels, but he said nothing. He never said much these days anyway. "You can take the seat next to Yeon-woo," the teacher continued. Heads turned, but Junha looked up only when he heard a soft shuffle. There she was. Yeon-woo. Hair tied up messily, school skirt rumpled with grey sports pants underneath, a lazy basketball tucked between her legs under the desk. And that smile, wide, dimpled, bright enough to burn through a rainstorm. The moment their eyes met, something inside him jolted, a memory, blurry but vivid, the night air full of drums and voices, his brother's laughter, and the sight of a girl dancing barefoot in the middle of a street band's crowd, her hair flying like a flame. Yeon-woo smiled, not a forced, polite smile like the others, but a real one, bright and carefree. "Hey! I'm Yeon-woo," she said, reaching out her hand without hesitation. Her palm was calloused, a basketball player's hand, and somehow that made her seem even more real. Junha nodded stiffly, forcing a small, mechanical smile. "Junha," he said quietly. And just like that, without any grandeur or pity, she had cracked the first layer of his walls. The first week blurred by. Junha tried to stay invisible, as usual, head down, mind on his studies. Yet Yeon-woo didn't let him disappear. She would appear at his side during lunch breaks, casually plopping her books next to his. She wore her school skirt but always had grey sweatpants underneath, a basketball tucked under one arm, a wild grin ready whenever the day got too serious. "Come on, you can't just study all the time," she'd tease, pushing his chair toward the sunny courtyard after school. At first, he hated it. Hated needing help, hated how vulnerable it made him feel. But Yeon-woo never treated him like he was broken. She didn't slow down her talking, didn't try to shield him. She laughed loudly, complained about boring teachers, teased him when he didn't get jokes right away. In her presence, he wasn't the wheelchair boy. He was just Junha. Days passed in a strange, bright blur. Yeon-woo didn't leave him alone, not out of pity, but out of sheer chaotic energy. One moment she was teaching him how to throw crumpled paper balls into a trash can, believe in the wrist, Junha. The next she was sneakily strapping her skateboard to the back of his wheelchair. "Hold on, Captain," she grinned wickedly, and before he could protest, they were zooming down the hallway at terrifying speed. His heart slammed against his ribs, and yet, he was laughing. Actually laughing. They crashed spectacularly into a broom closet. Both of them lay tangled in mops, howling with laughter, the janitor yelling in the distance. Yeon-woo wiped tears from her eyes. Best first crash ever. That was illegal, he gasped. Illegal fun is still fun, she said solemnly. Yeon-woo showed him how she could drum with pencils on a desk, how she could almost play a full BTS song without missing a beat. Her humming was even worse, flat, pitchy, loud, but somehow it became Junha's favorite background music. Sometimes, he'd chuckle quietly to himself just listening to her murder a pop song. "I know I suck, okay," she would say, dramatically clutching her chest. "But I suck with passion." "I can tell," he'd reply dryly, and she'd punch him in the arm. And somehow, he found himself waiting for their little walks. Waiting for her voice humming terribly off-key as she practiced songs under her breath during class. Waiting for her stupid basketball trick she insisted on showing him, spinning the ball on her finger until it flew into a teacher's window once. For the first time since the accident, he wasn't drowning. He was floating. Yeon-woo had a wild side too. One night, she texted him with a simple, "Get ready. We're breaking out." Before he could ask, she was outside his house with a hoodie for him, stealth mode, and a backpack filled with soda and snacks. Together, they sneaked out, her pushing him like a ninja, giggling madly when his squeaky wheelchair threatened to blow their cover. They made it to the street bands near Hongdae. The air vibrated with music and life, drums thumping, guitars wailing, neon lights painting the sidewalks. Yeon-woo pulled him into the crowd, his chair bumping over the uneven pavement. And just like before, when he had watched her dance as a stranger, he saw her again. Arms thrown up, hair wild, laughing so hard her whole body shook. Alive! Free! He wanted to freeze that moment and keep it forever. Sundays were another kind of magic. Yeon-woo played the drums at her church, and sometimes he would come, staying at the back, unnoticed, smiling to himself whenever he caught her making funny faces mid-service. She wasn't perfect. She missed beats, dropped her sticks, made the choir giggle, but she played like the whole world was her song. Afterward, she would drag him to the nearest food stand, stuffing his lap with skewers. "Eat, cripple boy," she joked once, earning a gasp from an old lady nearby. Yeon-woo just winked. "Don't worry, he's my best friend. I have rights." Junha nearly choked on a hot pepper from laughing too hard. Summer break came and went, a slow haze of warm days and lonely nights. When school resumed, Joon-ha saw Yeon-woo at the gate, waving wildly like she hadn't seen him in years. "I missed my study buddy," she yelled across the courtyard, drawing stares and some giggles. Joon-ha chuckled under his breath, surprised by the lightness in his chest. They were closer now, inseparable, as their classmates would say. Yeon-woo even showed him her secret spot, a small old music room hidden behind the art studio, abandoned except for a few battered instruments. The way she had finely decorated the room, small throw pillows, rope lights hanging from one end to the other, lovely yet imperfect painting pictures plastered on the wall, a basketball net she hung on the wall too. "Nobody comes here," she said proudly, kicking the door open with her foot. Inside smelled like old wood and forgotten dreams. Sunlight slanted through cracked windows, making the wooden floor sparkle like stars. They would sit for hours, her strumming out off-key songs on a battered guitar, him sketching on his notebook, sometimes just sitting in silence. It was the safest place in the world. Yeon-woo loved showing him things. Even photos, videos, goofy selfies of her family. She had this beat-up old phone full of memories. Trips to Jeju Island with her sister before she left for nursing school in the Philippines. Camping videos with her older brother, who now served in the US Marine, his face cocky and full of mischief like hers. "We're all rebels," she grinned proudly, scrolling through pictures. "It's like a family fun curse." Joon-ha loved every second. Maybe because it reminded him of his brother. Maybe because it showed him crazy fun parts of Yeon-woo no one else ever got to see, the soft parts, the real parts. Once, she showed him a video of her brother teaching her to do a backflip into a pool. Yeon-woo belly-flopped so hard, Joon-ha thought he might actually stop breathing from laughing. She laughed too, gasping, snorting, shoving the phone in his face. "I'm a legend," she declared. "You're a hazard," he corrected, still laughing hard. They shared many interests together. Food adventures became their thing. Yeon-woo would push him through the city streets, racing past startled tourists, until they crashed into their favorite hotpot spot. There, they would sweat bullets, eating extra spicy kebabs, pork belly, and soup so fiery Joon-ha's ears turned pink. Yeon-woo would fan him with napkins, fake crying. "OMG, is this how I lose my best friend? Death by chili peppers. At least it's honorable," he wheezed back. By the second semester, everyone knew about Junha and Yeon-woo's friendship. They ate lunch together, studied together, played video games on weekends. Sometimes, she'd even skip her driver just to ride home in Junha's car. His parents loved her, she was everything they had hoped someone would be for him, kind, stubborn, real. Yeon-woo would barge into their house like a hurricane, demanding snacks, challenging Junha to Mario Kart tournaments, and losing terribly every time. I'm letting you win, she insisted, arms crossed, a smirk on her lips. In truth, Joon-ha didn't care about winning anymore. He cared about the way she laughed, full and unguarded. He cared about the way she listened when he talked about the things he missed. He cared, fiercely, about her. Not that everyone was happy. Yeon-woo, the self-declared queen bee of their class, was livid. She had set her sights on Junha from the first day, brilliant, handsome, a little tragic, a perfect prize. But he barely acknowledged her, no matter how many love notes she slipped into his locker or how many times she accidentally bumped into him. Junha's world had no space for fake smiles. It had room only for a girl with wild sneakers and a guitar always slightly out of tune. One time, she dropped an entire plate of shrimp on his lap and they both nearly died from laughing. You needed more protein anyway, she joked, smearing sauce on his nose for good measure. Junha couldn't remember the last time his heart felt this full. One afternoon, as the autumn wind rattled the windows, Junha finally spoke. I knew you, he said. Yeon-woo blinked, confused. Before all this. You wouldn't know. My brother and I, we used to sneak out to watch street bands. You were always there. He stared at his hands, heart hammering against his ribs. My brother, he liked you. He wanted to talk to you. But we never did. The smile slid off Yeon-woo's face. She leaned closer, her voice softer. Your brother. He's gone, Joon-ha whispered. The accident. That's why I'm. He gestured to the wheelchair, his throat tightening. Yeon-woo's eyes shimmered. She didn't say I'm sorry, somehow knowing those words would be too small. Instead, she reached out and squeezed his hand, strong and steady. You're here, she said. And he's probably cheering for you every day. For a long moment, they sat like that, the old piano creaking in the breeze. That night, Junha dreamed for the first time in months. Not of hospitals or regrets. But of music, of laughter, of Yeon-woo's clumsy singing echoing down the empty halls. Final exams came faster than either of them wanted. Junha and Yeon-woo studied late into the nights, their heads bent together over textbooks and ramen cups. Between study sessions and prank wars, Yeon-woo once replaced all his pens with crayons. They barely slept. When results came in, perfect scores for both, she grabbed his wheelchair and spun him around the courtyard so wildly that a teacher scolded them so badly. They were finally free. And then came the day he had dreaded. The day he had to tell her. They sat together at the hill behind the school, their favorite spot, overlooking the golden rooftops of Seoul. Junha cleared his throat, his heart pounding. I'm leaving, he said. For university. Abroad. Yeon-woo was silent for a moment. Then she smiled, that same bright, unbreakable smile he had first seen. Good, she said. You deserve the whole world. He nodded, biting the inside of his cheek to stay calm. My dad insisted I study outside Korea, he said quietly. Yeon-woo stared at him for a long second. Then she smacked his arm, hard. It's for the best, buddy. No regrets. But then again, how would you cope without seeing this, making gesture to herself, this awesome creature next to you, her? He laughed, but there was a crack in it. I'll miss you, he said, voice low. Yeon-woo grinned, eyes shining suspiciously. You better. You're stuck with me for life. Nevertheless, we'll keep in touch, dummy, she said, lightly punching his shoulder. And when you come back, I'll be famous. I'm studying music, you know, I'd finally get to produce my own songs too. He laughed, the sound a little broken, a little whole. The sun dipped lower, painting the sky in brilliant hues of fire and gold. And somewhere in that fading light, promises were made, not with words, but with hearts that had been mended, piece by fragile piece, by a friendship neither of them had ever seen coming. For now this was the end. Subscribe and watch out for the next episode.